Hey, everybody. Kyle Mann here on the interview show.
Me too. I'm Ethan. I'm not Kyle. This is the Babylon Bee interview show.
And
but who else is here?
Him 3. Seamus.
My name's Seamus.
Coughlin.
Coughlin, yes.
It's not Coughlin.
Not Coughlin.
It is mispronounced.
And it's not
often.
Seamus.
No, the worst I have gotten is seamstress Copland, which is not how it's pronounced at all. Seamstress, yeah.
Copland.
That's right.
Got it. And this guy does the
at a
Freedom
film
Tunes.
festival in high school. Yes, I do Freedom Tunes. Yes, I'm the guy. I love it. Very blessed.
You can probably recognize him. He draws himself in there.
I draw myself way more attractive than I actually am because I'm a narcissist.
I thought it was the opposite. When I saw it, I was like, oh, you draw all these weird features in your face in the cartoon.
I appreciate that. Maybe I just have dysmorphia or something. Like maybe I just think I'm uglier than I am. But
Probably.
I think after the show, we'll do like a fans only thing where I will get into some of my deep childhood issues just to entice the viewers.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We're like following in your footsteps with the animation stuff too. So we feel
Ripping
like
you off.
we feel like a knockoff Freedom Tunes.
Yeah,
which is,
baby steps, I guess
you
they
know.
call that. But it's great actually. I'm happy to see other people sort of enter the animation sphere. And if you guys ever need pointers or want help with any of that, just let me know because the team's sort of been expanding and we always want to take on new projects. So any consulting work or if you wanted to outsource, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah, great.
So, I guess the obvious question, well, okay, people don't all know about Freedom Tunes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, definitely
So
not.
first,
And
are we going to show like a sample or anything?
Yeah, we should play the video. Let's watch the Ben Shapiro, the famous Ben Shapiro
Can
Thanksgiving.
we put one on our video?
Yeah,
Can we
of
get
course.
permission?
Yes.
Okay, we now have permission. Ben Shapiro
there you go.
Thanksgiving. Let's watch it.
Freedom Tunes. Do you talk fast always? Is
Yes.
like you're born this way? Is this
Yeah,
like
everyone
how
in my
you've always-
family, everyone in my family talks this
Your
way.
family.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. Okay, folks, who made these cranberries? Honestly, these are the worst cranberries I've ever tasted. I made them, and it's actually extremely impolite for you to insult my cooking on Thanksgiving, okay, folks? Our taste buds don't care about your feelings, okay? Okay, gang, well, if you want to make your own cranberries, feel free, but you're not entitled to free food, and the idea that you would complain over quality of service when you're receiving it for free is just ridiculous, okay? Okay, can somebody please pass the mashed potatoes, folks? Actually, these are my mashed potatoes, okay? I made them myself, and they're therefore the product of my own labor. And the idea that you feel it's acceptable to put a gun to my head and force me not only to give you the mashed potatoes, but to actually have me pass them to you as well is absolutely asinine, okay? Okay, well, that would be a solid argument if not for the fact that you're eating asparagus, which I made, okay? Ben, how could you seriously not pass the mashed potatoes after taking her asparagus? Is it my fault she gave it away for free and lost all leverage? I'm trying to teach my child how to compete and succeed within the free market, okay, folks? Good gaga, folks. I didn't realize I was surrounded by communists. I have the mashed potatoes and the asparagus because I make good decisions, okay, folks? Honestly, Ben, you're the last person to get smart with me considering you're the only one in the family to be born with an IQ lower than 300. Okay, well, you know what, Auntie? Believe it or not, some people consider an IQ of 215 to be relatively impressive, all right, folks? Sorry I'm late, folks. I had more important things to take care of. I'm actually a doctor. She's a doctor, folks. His wife's a doctor, folks. She's a doctor. My wife's a doctor. Did you bring the turkey? Gobble, gobble. Socialism works.
Oh man, that was hilarious.
Okay, folks, that's the funniest cartoon I've ever seen in my life, all right, gang? Honestly, like, if you don't understand that is absolute pure comedy, you're completely out of your mind, okay, folks? So here's why that's better comedy than anything you're going to see on, like, Late Night with Seth Meyers or on Our Cartoon President, okay? Because you can actually tell that this is coming from a place of wanting to make people laugh and not trying to get an ideologically charged argument across, okay, folks? So, like, that is why that cartoon is funny, and I actually consider that to be probably, like, the second best or third best Freedom Tunes possibly of all time. And that's saying quite a lot, okay, gang?
Even if I could do the voice, you have to think that fast.
Which I'm not good at.
To talk that fast.
Okay, folks, like, I can kind of do it. You just, like, so I guess throw a question my way, and I'll try to do it like the best Ben Shapiro rant as I possibly can.
Is communism good?
Okay, so actually the thing about communism is it's perfectly good because we have democratized all of our countries across the world, and it's time to democratize the workplace because the thing is bosses are actually like miniature monarchs, and they're able to fire you based on whether or not they agree with your performance or even arbitrary factors because you allow them to do whatever they want. And that's actually quite tyrannical. So part of why we need to transition to what I would call like an anarcho communist or syndicalist system is because we need unions to be perfectly in charge of the workplace, and they need to be run by the workers so that the capitalist class does not subsist on the excess labor of the proletariat, because that's actually bad news bears, folks. We actually don't want people to have their wages stolen from them by capitalist employers, okay, gang?
Have you ever thought about raising ferrets, Ben Shapiro?
So here's the thing about ferrets. The idea that I would ever raise ferrets is absolutely insane. So first of all, if you've ever actually been around a ferret, they look like snake cats. They're very just long and kind of disgusting and furry, and I don't actually know what to make of them. So they can be very uncomfortable as creatures. I try to spend as much time away from them as possible. It's one of the things that was really important to me when searching for real estate, was making sure like there are no ferrets nearby. It's probably a deal breaker for me if there are any in the area.
Wow. We're going to do this the whole show?
Thank you. Honestly, we could. I mean, it doesn't just have to be
Way
Ben
better
Shapiro.
than-
We can do... I'm not that interesting, but like the people I do impressions of are kind of interesting.
yeah,
so
you're
if you want to
really
like
bland.
throw some of those at me.
Yeah, that's what I get on interviews. They're like, "You're so funny. The writing, it's so great." And I'm like, and they're like, "What about you?" Well, I'm kind of just a normal guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason I'm behind the scenes here, folks.
So, how'd you? I mean, FreedomToons. What is this? This is
How-
libertarian
Cartoons.
propaganda.
That's
Convert
how
the
it
children?
started. Yeah, I've definitely shifted a bit over the past couple of years. I used to be like a die-in-the-wool libertarian, and then as I've sort of learned more about my Catholic faith and realized that there are certain incompatibilities between Catholic teaching and like a hard-line libertarian stance,
Like
I've
what?
become more conservative. Yeah, there are numbers. So I think that like with respect to the Catholic conception of rights as opposed to the libertarian conception of rights, a Catholic would say that there are, in certain circumstances, there are evils that the state can permit, but that doesn't necessarily make those things rights. And the die-in-the-wool libertarian position is like, as long as I'm not hurting anybody, I have a right to do this thing. And that's like directly opposed to Catholic teaching. So as a Catholic, I no longer accept that, though I think it is better for things to be solved outside of the state. I think also when the state is involved with something, it needs to be done by the most local possible structure of authority. So, local governments, then state governments, and then federal government. But with respect to the federal government, I'm pretty extremely libertarian. I think they should just be out of as much as possible.
What's the Catholic position on smoking or doing DMT?
Like doing D&D, yeah. So the Catholic position would definitely be that those are mortally sinful or grave matter. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the theology behind mortal sin.
It's some kind of heresy.
there's
but-
Venial
Yes, no,
and
how
mortal?
dare you? So there's venial and mortal, and I can't go chapter and verse, but there is a verse in Scripture which mentions sin that leads unto death. So what we draw from that is there is sin which leads unto death, and then necessarily sin which does not lead unto death, things which would damage your relationship with God, but not necessarily forfeit your salvation entirely. So there are certain venial sins. I mean, there are many venial sins. It's basically if you have
said menial. Oops.
venial. Well, if you've broken the 10 commandments, and venial actually comes from a word which means more easily forgiven. And a mortal sin would be something which violates the 10 commandments in a grave way, and which is done with full knowledge and consent. And if you commit mortal sin, you forfeit your salvation until you are reconciled to God through the sacrament of reconciliation.
So punching the Pope.
Confession. Yeah, well, it
Mortal or-
depends on the context.
Which Pope? It depends on the Pope, probably.
Well, it depends. So you should not punch the Pope, but I suppose if you are in, for example, like if you're mentally ill and can't fully consent to the action, then it would not be mortally sinful. This is not me encouraging anyone to be physically violent against anyone, let alone my Pope. But
If he has like a murder horn on his face.
yeah, but yeah. So I would say any kind of physical violence would probably be mortally sinful if
Really?
not.
Like if I
would say
punched
it's
you
not-
right now, that would be morally.
if I wasn't attacking you, but I'm not a theologian, so I try to be careful about how deep into the discussions I get on these things. What I do know is that the Catechism says illicit drugs are prohibited, and I believe it's grave matter because God gives us our free will, and it's the one thing we have which allows us to be able to choose Him, and to compromise that is to sort of throw that back in His face.
What about pot?
What about pot? There's some debate on this. I've heard.
Pant.
I believe that it is also mortally sinful based on the Catechism. It doesn't mention weed explicitly. It just sort of mentions illicit drugs. I don't remember the exact
DMT?
phraseology. But I assume weed falls into that category. Now, obviously, with any drug, if it is prescribed medicinally and there's good reason to believe that it could be a helpful treatment or cure, then you can discern that with prudence.
Hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah, so
That's
the
mortal.
the church position on hydroxychloroquine, no. There is none as far as I'm aware of. But also, again, I try to be careful. I am no theologian. So
Yeah, you don't have Catholic tunes. You should do Pope tunes.
So that's the thing. That
would be mortal sin.
love to do. Well, no, this is actually something I've been asked about. Like, why don't you do more cartoons on church politics? And for a time, I was interested in that.
You like to have a job?
Yeah, well, it's really not just that. I don't trust myself to not move into sacrilegious territory if I'm trying to make jokes about things related to religion. And it's not because I want to move into sacrilegious territory. I just know that sometimes I might make a joke about something that's a little over the line, and then I don't know if I should take it out or leave it in, and I sort of battle with that scrupulosity. So it's difficult to cover religious topics in a way that's respectful from my perspective. And I also find that with FreedomToons, I can sort of inject my entire worldview, which is based in many ways in my Catholic perspective, into things without having to explicitly discuss theology or Catholic teaching. I have created some Christian educational cartoons in the past, and I'm actually speaking with some people at Christian Networks about producing more because I love doing that. But that stuff's almost all like straightforward educational explainers with some jokes thrown in, whereas FreedomToons is just this like crazy, over-the-top, really zany, sometimes nonsensical humor. I don't think would translate well to like communicating a religious message.
You do any Bible character impressions?
I've never heard any of them.
Moses had a speech
I've
impediment.
never heard Moses speak. Oh, that's true.
You could do a funny speech
guys.
impediment.
I've never heard any of their actual voices.
Hey guys, check out the 10 Commandments, guys.
the Red Sea
So, yeah, I suppose,
It's crazy.
Yeah, I suppose we don't actually know what the speech impediment was.
Liz.
I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, basically,
10 Commandments.
You just had a lisp.
I don't. I feel bad straying too far from your original question because I don't think I gave you a full answer.
What was the question?
I don't know.
What is libertarianism
we're
and
going
what did it
everywhere.
start as? And then no, and that's not bad.
The DMT is really taking us places.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's like, am I
appreciate
on
that.
Joe Rogan right now? I thought that we were just gonna have a conversation.
We've appropriated.
Kyle's been asking a lot of DMT questions.
Yeah, but I think so. It started as that.
You're losing all your libertarian credit.
No,
here.
I know they're all gone. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I have my beliefs, and I'm very sympathetic to the libertarian position on many issues. I mean, I still believe that we need to pull out of all the wars that we're involved with overseas. I still believe that the federal government should stay out of as many issues as possible. I still believe that the Federal Reserve is a travesty and needs to be not only audited, but I would prefer abolished. I think we need a more honest standard for our currency. So
Mortal sin.
yeah, exactly.
Burning the Fed would be a mortal sin.
I'm curious. I think.
Oh, what?
I think burning
Violence.
a building. I
You
think
get all
arson.
people out
I think,
first.
I think. Well, I think.
What about
arson,
peaceful protest? Is that
Well,
a,
that's the thing. I think arson is probably a sin as long as you're not with BLM. And if you are, then it's like
fine.
it's obviously it's mostly peaceful.
mostly,
It's
yeah.
mostly peaceful. Isn't it strange too how arson has kind of become this thing that we're supposed to accept? Like arson is a serious crime. It's like
pretty
people can
serious.
die.
Yeah.
It's extremely serious. But this is like, oh, they just lit some stuff on fire.
That happened in one of those buildings, right? They burned the building, and they found out later there was somebody in there.
Yeah.
They found a body.
Isn't that funny that a person would be inside of a building?
They just got insurance.
It's
You
like
keep hearing that. They got insurance. Who cares?
And I'm so glad that insurance was invented so that we can just destroy anyone's property for any reason.
Just walk
Thank
around.
God. Yeah. Thank
Grand
God.
Theft Auto.
yeah, with those two lawyers that went and burned out the cop car. Mm-hmm. And then all the
that's
all the
right.
media coverage was like, oh, they just got caught up in this, and now their lives are ruined.
Yeah, they just
Yeah,
they were
why
just
does
walking
happen
along,
to-
and the next thing they knew, they were throwing a Molotov cocktail like anybody does on a regular day.
And why does it feel like that was 2 years ago? You know what I mean? Like
Well,
the
the
news
news
cycle
cycle.
so quickly.
It was about 3 hours ago, but it already
didn't
feels
happen
like-
that long ago. Yeah, like these poor kids, they just lit a cop car on fire. Like we all do stupid stuff when we're young.
It was a van too. There's parts of it you wouldn't know if there was somebody in there. That's part of the reason it's so bad. Like,
That is really horrible. Well, and also too, with any kind of arson, that could spread and kill other people. Like even if they knew nobody was in that vehicle, that would still be a recklessly dangerous thing to do. I think that. Oh, I had a thought and then I lost it. My train of thought was derailed.
you lit the Molotov.
I know.
Now
They
you
lit
lie
the
in it.
Molotov. Yeah, fair enough. Well, yeah, did you see
Hold
the
the
video
pin.
of the guy
Yeah.
who like drops the Molotov on himself and he catches fire and
Who did that?
No,
What?
yeah.
I saw the one where they threw it at their own Antifa guy.
On
Oh
accident?
my
Yeah, they were trying to throw it
goodness.
at the cops, and then another
guy
rider
ran
was
out.
like, "Ah!"
That's horrible because that's it's horrible.
walk around like that.
Well, and it's so depressing because it was the insurance thing. We were talking about insurance. And I'm actually working on a video right now at the Foundation for Economic Education on the economic effects of rioting. And what people don't understand is even if the insurance does cover it, which is a big if. First of all, like massive corporations like Target might have a policy which can cover your building being burned down and then cleaning all the debris and building another one. But for a lot of companies and for a lot of small businesses, there's one I was reading about in particular where they were not even able to fully recover the costs that they spent cleaning up the debris from their store after it had been burned down. So they went into debt just cleaning the property up without ever getting a chance to open their business again. And Also,
And not to mention they're not selling anything the whole time. Are they going to make up all the costs of like how much the business would have been making? There's so many expenses involved.
well, yeah, exactly. And also, if insurance costs increase because you live in an area where people regularly torch buildings, or if you can torch buildings just at one point, I think that's enough to raise the risk enough such that your policy is going to become more expensive, and then you might make less of a profit. In fact, you might not make any profit at all because profit margins could be really small for small businesses.
When did you accept Ron Paul into your heart?
Oh, that's a good question. So probably 2012.
Yeah.
I love, so yeah, and Ron Paul.
Did you have to renounce him once
That's
you
not sacrilege.
turned
No,
against
so
drugs?
that's
and
the
stuff?
thing. I'm actually not sure how to handle drugs policy-wise. I believe the war on drugs has been a total failure. I absolutely would not continue the war on drugs at the federal level. No, I think with states, I think it should be left up to the states, as I would say most things should be, as long as it's not like a direct matter of life or death. Or there's not some like, I suppose maybe there's some other grave evil somebody could bring to my attention. But with Ron Paul, it's still hard for me to find something that I would like disagree with Ron Paul on. So even though I've moved away, like with respect to how I view our rights philosophically, and there are a number of issues where I definitely am not libertarian anymore. I think when I look at most of the, like I would vote for him for president 10 out of 10 times. You know, I haven't like completely turned against this. So
Gotcha. Can you do a Ron Paul impersonation?
I could try. I kind of have like a Ron Paul, Rand Paul. He's like, he kind of talks like this. And he's like, well, why does the government doing all these things? And he's kind of like this fun, zany old man.
Sounds like Bill Clinton to me.
Yeah, Bill Clinton is more like, well, the reason that happened over there is because of this thing. Yeah. Just raspy old men. But yeah, Ron Paul is hard because there was just this fantastic energy he had. And it was insane that like he's this old, I don't know how old he was when he was running, maybe in his 80s.
He's crazy.
No, he
old.
was like younger than Biden is when Biden's running now.
Well, I mean,
Which isn't saying
Yeah, exactly. Biden hasn't exactly aged gracefully, especially with respect to his cognitive health. Though I'm not the first to point that out.
He was 77 in 2012.
Yeah, so he's this guy in his late 70s, and he's getting so many young people really invested in the message of liberty. And I can't take credit for this thought. I believe it was Dave Smith who pointed this out. But when you look at like a Bernie rally and how excited Bernie has gotten young people, they'll say things like, well, healthcare should be free or college should be free. And even though I don't disagree with their proposed solutions for that, and I don't believe that those things are a right that you are entitled to have the state pay for, it's kind of really straightforward. That's an easy thing to sell somebody on. But to sell somebody on the idea that like we should not have the Federal Reserve or that our monetary policy should be based in some kind of commodity standard is not something that's really easy to get young people excited about. He doesn't make as many good
slogans
Shouldn't
and
get a lot of free
signs
stuff,
and stuff.
And yet Ron Paul was able to do it. And in part, it was because he was such a thoroughly honest person who genuinely believed in everything he claimed to espouse. There was no BS with him. You know, there was no public and private position. And so I can't really boil it down to that specifically. There's this kind of X factor I can't explain with him. But yeah, I mean, Ron Paul was really fantastic. And it's a shame that he's too old to run for anything anymore, that he's not interested in running for anything anymore.
Did you go from like neocon to libertarian, now leaning more conservative?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I was in high school, and in this like stoner in Spanish class was always talking about Ron Paul, and that's how I learned about him. And I was like, I don't need to hear about this guy. I'm sure this is like this is probably liberal nonsense. And then I actually heard Ron Paul speak, and I was like, oh my goodness, like everything this man is saying makes perfect sense. And I think after a couple years, and again, as I began to learn more about my faith and also just to encounter other issues that I found personally with like the sort of hardline libertarian orthodoxy, I moved more towards maybe like a traditionally Catholic conservative position. But the thing about the Catholic faith is that it's not as if there's one set political position everyone has to hold. Like there are a number of non-negotiables. So for example, you are not considered a practicing Catholic if you support abortion or legalized abortion because of the 6 precepts of the church. I actually said there are five precepts of the church in a video I did about this, but traditionally there were 6. And the 6th was relating to marriage, but that's an entirely different discussion. I'm just trying to correct an old video I did for anyone who's seen it.
I'm glad we could provide you.
Yeah,
a
I'm glad. So like, I want to let me publicly apologize. No, for not being trad enough. But no, so one of the precepts. No, I'm sorry. There's 6 precepts of the church, and then there are Oh my gosh, I'm totally getting this. I totally spaced for a second. Give me one moment to recollect my
It's
thoughts.
okay. We're going to send this video to the Pope.
Yeah.
And we're going to let him know.
Yeah. So he was like, this. Look at this heretic. Unbelievable, Seamus. I slept like 2 hours last night, so forgive me. But no, in order to be considered a practicing Catholic, one of the prerequisites is that you need to give full assent to Catholic teaching. How long did it take me to say that? How much did I stumble to get those words out? That wasn't that complicated. I'm sorry.
I like people that talk a lot because I'm not good at talking a lot.
Yeah,
so.
talk as
Okay.
much as you want.
I'll just
we don't
fill
have
it
to do
in.
anything.
Yeah,
We're on
well-
over. Hey guys, as a Christian, you know God's always there for you, but sometimes things can feel overwhelming, especially in this era where we're all locked in our homes and stuff, and there's crazy stuff going on. So sometimes it can be beneficial to speak with someone who shares your faith and values.
Right. A lot of times you don't know what you're getting when it comes to counselors. You know what their views are. It's an awkward question to be like, you a Christian? Licensed professional counselors who are specialized in depression, stress, anxiety, sleeping, crisis of faith, trauma, anger.
All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Everything you share is confidential. If you're not happy, you can request a new counselor at any time for no charge. They've got 3,000 licensed therapists across all 50 states, and they're good with technology too.
Yeah, you can like text them, FaceTime them, Skype them, whatever.
They got apps, video sessions, phone sessions, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's a cool faith-based counseling service. Listeners of the Babylon Bee get 10% off their first month at faithfulcounseling.com/BabylonB.
That's right. That's faithfulcounseling.com/BabylonB.
You can get started not tomorrow,
Right this
today,
second.
right now.
Right now. Do it.
faithfulcounseling.com/BabylonB. Check it out.
Well, basically, yes, you have to give full assent to Catholic teaching in order to be considered a practicing Catholic, and Catholic teaching says things, for example, like, again, abortion is murder. It needs to be treated as murder by civil authorities. So there are non-negotiables, but overall, a Catholic can hold some diverse range of opinions on multiple issues. Like, there is not one specific economic system that the church says a Catholic has to believe in, right? There's not one specific policy prescription for every issue that a Catholic has to believe in. So I don't mean to make it sound like all of my political views are Catholic views and that everyone has to agree with me if they want to be a good Catholic. But I have just moved towards what I consider to be a more like conservative Catholic position on a lot of issues. And part of what that involves for me is a heavy emphasis on the principle of subsidiarity, which basically states that which can be handled by the most local possible authority is required to be handled by the most local possible authority. So I still hold the view that we need to get the federal government out of most things. And the only time anything should fall to a higher authority is if there is literally no other way to accomplish the goal you're trying to accomplish using like the smaller structure.
A very Chestertonian view.
G.K. Chesterton.
Yes.
I was going to say, you a Chesterton fan?
Yeah, you know.
Maybe we could do G.K. Chestertunes.
Oh my goodness! I'm actually
Big market for that.
to-
bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would
do it.
my subscriber base would skyrocket if I just named my channel to
huge
Chestertunes
hole,
right now,
yeah.
dude. No,
Well, that's
Chesterton,
kind of what
I'm
we did. Is
ashamed.
we turned our podcast into GK Chesterton discussion. We basically got the owner to just fund us to talk about GK Chesterton.
Honestly, that's
we're
not
just
a bad
riding
idea.
on
Bring
the
him up in
Babylon.
about every episode. Yeah.
Well, no, this is really embarrassing because I should be very familiar with Chesterton's work, given my views, but I haven't even cracked a book. It has. I've read some quotes here and there. It's very
Gotta
embarrassing.
get
No,
him to our Chesterton group.
Come on
well,
over.
and I was told several times this week that I need to read more Chesterton, so I'll take this as a signal.
There's another one. Yeah.
So you got you found some success on YouTube with FreedomToons.
Mm-hmm.
You could have just filmed yourself like playing with toys.
That's what I thought about.
opening
Like,
package.
and so
Streaming
that was
with
actually the
Minecraft.
original plan for the channel. Is I was like, there's three directions I can go in with this. Like, I can either do a Minecraft channel, I can do Let's Plays, or I can like play with toys and do unboxings.
Hey, Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Ben
yeah.
Shapiro
Have,
playing
like, Ben
Minecraft.
Shapiro absolutely plays Minecraft. But after thinking about it, I was like, you know what I'd rather do? Like work 60 hours a week to make less money than that. And so so I decided to do
a good
animation
choice.
instead. No. I
way more work.
started I think I started to teach myself to animate when I was like 12, and it's just a medium that I've always loved. And when I graduated high school, I started like a little small business in animation production. And I was doing like trying to do little freelance gigs here and there and landed a couple, but I realized that there was just this massively underserved conservative market, and I've always been a conservative person. You know, I mentioned I sort of went from like more of a traditional neoconservative position to a libertarian position, and
So you went from bomb Iran to don't bomb Iran
and
to don't bomb Iran, but also don't do drugs.
yes,
That's
exactly.
the path. Sorry, continue.
No, I would say that's the path. Well, and this is where it gets kind of complicated. Like, even as a libertarian, I would not have said or would say, because this is the thing, is I'm almost politically homeless. I'm not exactly where I fall in, and I still have heavy libertarian sympathies. But regardless of my beliefs on the legality of drugs, I would never say that you should do them.
Yeah.
But point is, I started teaching myself to animate when I was young, tried to start the small business when I was 18, or did start a small business, was doing some freelance work. And then I realized there's just this massively underserved marketplace. And so I thought, well, like, why don't I just start producing content that promotes messages which I value? And I started doing that, and it started to spread, and I found some success early on, and the channel sort of steadily grew. And then once I got like out of just strictly educational stuff and more into like really zany satirical stuff, that's when it sort of took off. And early on, we had some zany satirical stuff, but I think the scripts were just way more like wordy and preachy at that time, which I think is very common for younger writers, especially when you're dealing with anything political. And then I think it was fun to do impressions of people, and I thought like maybe I'll do it every once in a while, but it's something that like I don't think I rely on it too much. We're not constantly doing these videos where I'll do like an impression of, Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro. We've got a handful of them, and I like to release a new one every now and again just because the audience enjoys it. But I've also like enjoyed starting to do impressions of like mainstream political figures like Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and those are always really fun.
We were trying to do Biden the other day, and we just sound like a bunch of old prospectors.
That's the thing. Yeah, well, like I don't know. But Biden is one of these guys where I don't know if I actually get his voice right with respect to the actual like tone of it. But it's you just have to say nonsense, and you just have to talk like, well, hey Jack, and you go over and you put all the pool filter in your Tic Tacs. You just where'd it go, Jack? And it just has to be like an incoherent rambling, like sort of as an old man, and that's basically Joe Biden.
That's what we were doing.
Yeah, that's what we were doing. Okay.
So
we're on the right track.
All right, there we go. Yeah.
200 million people died while you were doing that impression.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's true.
Crazy.
That's what Biden said.
Oh, that's right. What was he talking about? I didn't actually keep up on
I think
that.
he was trying to say that we're going to hit 200,000 COVID deaths. But he said in his speech, 200 million Americans have died maybe
During
by the
the
time I
speech.
finish the speech.
Dude, he had something big planned, and we just
in
never
that
learned
audience
about it.
were dropping.
He presses a button. 200 million are about to
It's like,
die.
is that a threat? Is that a threat, Joe Biden? 200 million people are gonna die. That's hysterical. Yeah, he's it's so sad. I mean, in some ways, it's a gift that he was nominated, but on the other hand, it's like they had so many choices.
Yeah, what was that?
I have no clue. It's just a weird establishment thing. And then Bernie Sanders literally just bent over and said, please take this from me. Like, I don't want to be the nominee. He let them walk all over him. And it's interesting to see sort of the difference between him and Trump. Like, they're both very grassroots. But Trump is just so much more aggressive. And you could say too aggressive for his own good. And a lot of people try to critique Trump and his strategy. But I'm like, it seems to be working for him. And I think we'll really see if it's working. I was hoping we would really see if it was working for him in 2020, because in 2016 it was like, well, did Trump win or did Hillary just lose?
Yeah.
We're not actually sure. Did the American people really like him, or was it just that they were terrified of her? And I was thinking maybe in 2020 we'll actually sort of learn. And the economy was doing really well. I mean, he was performing decently as a president. Hadn't started any new wars, which is actually a miracle. And I'm not saying that's a miracle with respect to him or that I anticipated he would start wars, but just the fact that like a sitting U.S. president in the past 40 years would not start a new war is really amazing.
It's un-American. Is
Yeah,
what it is.
that's exactly how I feel. It's un-American. And there was this
Do
thought.
ladies just throw themselves at
It's
you?
unbelievable. They're like, talk like George Bush to me, please. I feel Americans.
Can you do your Jordan Peterson, please?
Well, it's like if you're going to ask me to channel Jordan Peterson right now when I'm in the middle of a sentence trying to explain how Donald Trump is going to win the election and what that says about the American people, it's kind of derailing. It's like, I've thought about this a lot. And like, what is Donald Trump? It's like, he's a father. He's a father figure. It's like, what do dads do? It's like, well, they lead. That sounds about right. Like they take care of you. And it's like, has Donald Trump taken care of us? What does your dad do when you have the cold? He takes care of you. Is Donald Trump taking care of us through COVID? Has he manifested that? It's like, well, we'll find out when people go to the polls. I guess we'll learn if the collective unconscious has decided that Donald Trump is worthy of being the next president.
Who would win, Donald Trump or a lobster?
Oh, that's a good question. It's like, you're asking Jordan
Yeah, I'm
Peterson.
asking
I don't know why I
don't care what Seamus
took that
said.
as a serious question. You shouldn't care what I think about it. It's like, man, it's like, that's a tough question because you think like both of them will react similarly to serotonin, and both of them are very invested in their position on the dominance hierarchy. It's like, if you were to take 100 lobsters, and you were to take the most aggressive lobster of those 100 lobsters and do that 100 more times until you had the most aggressive possible lobster, and you put him in a room with Donald Trump, it's like, that'd be something to behold right there. That'd be, I'm sorry.
It's not good.
It's like, that would be,
It's not
man,
good.
that's
Hey,
something.
you haven't said Bucko
That's something
yet.
you
No
don't want to
Bucko.
contend with, Bucko. That's,
There you go.
that's right there is like unbelievable. It's just like, it brings me to tears
What's weird
just
is
to
you
think about it.
sound almost like Kyle.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like a little Kermity. Yeah, Kermit. It's kind of like the same voice. It's just like a Canadian. It's like you're just like a Canadian Kermit who gets like a little more emotional and is like far more intelligent than a Jim Henson character. Yeah, Jordan Peterson's fantastic. He's one that's fun to rip on. And Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro were both very cool to me when I made fun of them. Like, they've tweeted the videos out and shared them. So there's no hard feelings that I'm aware of.
Nice.
Maybe I'll meet them and it'll be different. They'll just like pull me aside and cuss me up like that video. But for now, things seem to be going decently.
But Antifa hasn't reached out.
Yeah, they're not fans.
No,
expressed
yeah,
it.
Antifa shared my my
yeah.
videos, and they're like,
Oh,
"Look
really?
at this." They're like, "It's important to laugh at yourself sometimes, guys."
Yeah.
And they like threw it.
Did
no,
they?
oh my god,
No.
no, what?
Like, what?
So first of all, Antifa isn't even real.
Yeah, Bob Antifa, the founder of Antifa,
yeah.
reached out. Yeah,
The CEO.
yeah.
Yeah, what is it that they say Antifa's not real because it's not like centralized? If
Right.
it's centralized, that means you can never criticize it. Also,
Yeah,
no,
Antifa doesn't exist.
I don't think I've
imagination.
ever made fun of Antifa. I don't think I've ever been anything but supportive because it literally
course.
just means anti-fascist.
Yeah,
Right.
so if you criticize it,
You don't
then
criticize
You are
that.
literally fascist. That's how it works.
Right.
yeah.
You know, it's funny because like I remember when the BLM protests were starting, which again feels like years ago. It's just months. Very strange. They went after a statue of Churchill, and I forget what their grievance with him was. It was like, oh, isn't that interesting that like just fighting Nazis doesn't make you a good guy? Like you have a problem with Churchill, even though he fought Nazis, huh, guys? Like even though he was anti-fascist, isn't that interesting that you could still find a problem with something he did at some point in his life?
One of my favorite articles that Frank Fleming wrote was a man who's
One
on
of
the
our
right.
writers.
Yeah, one of our writers. Man who was on the right side of history still ends up in hell.
Oh, dude, that's hysterical. But no, it's true. It's like that's such a freaky term too. The right side of history.
I
It's
know.
so Orwellian.
Is so.
I hate it. It's just like the fact that people throw that around as if it means anything. Like that is
Yeah.
literally just the same as saying I am right. Like I am correct. Okay, can you prove that? Can you make an argument for that? It's like I'm on the right side of history. It drives me crazy.
The assumption is that we all believe our beliefs are on the right side of history.
Yeah.
Or we wouldn't believe them.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine be like, man, what? I wish I didn't pick the wrong side of history. Like, what am I doing? It's funny because Ben Shapiro titled his book The Right Side of History to parody that phrase.
Yeah.
And then people took a clip of him criticizing the phrase The Right Side of History and they're like, look at Ben Shapiro.
Owned.
Named his book. Yeah, totally owned him with facts and logic. It was
Crushed.
actually pretty funny. Yeah. Honestly, he was.
Totally flattened.
I highly recommend. It's a lesser known book by Jonah Goldberg, but just his first chapter in The Tyranny of Cliches. He takes on all these cliches in that book, and he nails that one really well in that book.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
So you've got 350,000 subscribers or something. What is it now?
450.
450
Yeah.
now. This is old
Yes, sir.
data. 450,000 subscribers. Can we
That was
have
just 2
like
seconds.
half?
You gotta,
Yeah,
you have
share.
to, yeah. Quote me a price, man. I don't know.
Okay. We'll
I'm
strike a
sure
deal
there's,
later.
I'm sure there's quite a lot of overlap between our
Sure,
fans,
yeah.
to be honest. So
When I get my cartoons more going, we could do like team ups or something.
yeah, that could be cool.
Crossover,
Little crossovers, yeah, something like that.
which
could be
just means
interesting.
us getting your followers.
Yeah. Stealing
Wait,
your
hold on a second. It means me getting your money. Actually, is what it means. No,
Sad.
yeah, I think
We don't have any money.
Yeah.
I'm just unbelievably blessed to have the platform that I have, and it took quite a while to build up. But so many people work at their project for so many years and don't see the kind of success that I've seen. So like I recognize it all comes from God, and that I have to maintain a sense of gratitude. And it's funny, like whenever a critic will knock what I'm doing or say like this is like you don't deserve your followers or fans or whatever it is, you're overrated. It's like,
No, like I agree that I don't deserve them. Like I definitely don't
Most
deserve.
YouTube
Like
channels that are
I
successful.
feel the same way.
This is literally from God. Like this is a gift that I have. I am so grateful, and I recognize the blessing there. And I just I love doing.
Yeah,
what
this
I'm-
thing snowballed, dude. You hit 100,000 subscribers in 2018.
Yeah.
You launched in 2012, so you go 7 years to build up to 100,000, and then a year later you had 350,000, and then a year later you have 450,000.
That's what it wouldn't. Jordan Peter would.
Well, it's like
Peterson would
that's the
talk
freedom
about that.
distribution, man. Like once you start accumulating, it's like there's a verse in the Bible that says like to he who much is given, more will be given. And it's like that's right. Like we see that, man. It all started accumulating. Actually, so in 2012, the channel was not FreedomToons. It was just like a little channel I would upload my animations to that I would like make with my friends in high school. And then I think in 2014 is when I started uploading political content. And then I don't think it was until like 2017 or maybe 2015 or 2016 that I actually changed the name of the channel to FreedomToons. Yeah.
You ever feel like pigeonholed, or do you just like making cartoons like that? You ever want to just look like a cat and mouse cartoon, and you're like, it's got to have like an American flag in it or something?
Yeah, exactly. I do feel that sometimes. At the same time, like again, I try to recognize that like I'm very blessed to be able to do this, and most of my interest is in political matters right now. So I don't feel stifled in any way. Like I would probably be talking about this stuff anyway. And had I decided to pursue a more traditional career in the industry, and just attempted to work for some studio, I would have been pigeonholed in the exact opposite direction.
Totally.
Yeah, like A, I would be doing grunt work. B, I would never be able to discuss my politics. And to me, that's really important. And
Yeah.
I think that even though a lot of it is like really silly and we're just sort of trying to make a joke, we are getting a message across, and it's a message that I consider to be important. It's one that I could just never have gotten across unless I chose explicitly to talk about politics. Because the reality is, when you have right of center views, or even just right of left views, because you can be a centrist and encounter this, you are only allowed to express your political views once you have committed yourself to becoming an explicitly political figure. Like if you are a left-wing content creator, you can throw out some banal left-wing opinion that every other brand is tweeting out, and you're never going to be pigeonholed. You're never going to be expected to talk about politics all the time. But when you're right-leaning, you're going to get canceled from so many other venues that you just have to be prepared for politics to become your main thing. And I was fine with that from the get-go, because I've always loved politics, and I've always loved making cartoons, and I've always loved writing jokes. And the fact that I can combine all of those things is really perfect for me.
Yeah, it's clearly your gift. I mean, it all comes together.
Thank you.
Just as I'm meeting you here.
I appreciate that.
But it's clear the comedy from your videos comes because it's funny first. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh no, your gags. I love how you work in. I don't know how you write, but there's layers that you add. You add these visual gags that have nothing to do with the talking.
Yes.
I was watching and going, I got to start doing that.
Yeah.
Like you have I think it's like all the pictures on the wall. Like
Ben Shapiro's where they all blink.
they
That
all
actually,
blink.
that started as an animation glitch. It was like an error, and I was like, oh, I'm leaving that in for sure. Like those need to blink. But yeah, it definitely happens where I'll come up with the script, and also like at this point, because we have expanded, and like FreedomToons isn't the only thing I'm doing anymore, so I sort of have a small team of freelancers and helpers who will contribute to the animation and suggest ideas. And so I'll come up with an idea, or a friend will come up with an idea, and we'll sort of discuss it and figure out the best way to go about approaching it and making it really funny. And then it can go one of two ways. Some videos, in most of the videos we've done recently, have been made the week that they've been released. And some of them have been made like a day before they released, or 2 days, which is extremely strenuous, but it is possible every now and again. And usually with that, you will try to get the script together really quickly, just record the audio. We won't have time for storyboards. We'll just sort of do really rough thumbnails and move to final animation immediately. And we'll be okay like with things looking a little sloppy, because they usually do. We make one of these a week. And as I'm drawing, I'll just think of like something really stupid or funny to throw in there. I'm like, oh, why don't I do that? And so originally there was a video we did a couple weeks ago called What Left Wing, I think it was called Right Wing Agitators or something, like what left wingers believe about the riots. And we can, I suppose, roll the clip for the audience here so I don't have to describe it.
Let's watch this hilarious
Yeah,
video.
you guys, let's watch this video together.
Nice.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Dang good.
It was a pretty good video.
Yeah, you got to act cool. You got to act
like,
like,
yeah. And I was like, I just came up
I
with
did
that.
that with, I animated that with this hand while I animated a different cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. I
with
was
this
just
hand.
doing it. It was like, was no
I
big
did all the
deal.
voices right here.
It was like,
Yeah.
no big
Like-
deal. That is actually one of the few cartoons that does not have any speaking. I think that's my only cartoon that
Oh.
not a word is said.
Yeah, I knew that because we just watched
Because
it.
we just watched it, and so he knows that. But when I was working on that one, I think the original idea was just that the guy sort of like goes in the voting booth and votes for Trump, and then he walks out of the voting booth, and then he sees that all these Antifa people are secret right-wingers. And that was the punchline. But then as I was drawing that, we were really crunched for time. Like I had to release this the next day. And I was like, oh, but what if he's like smashing the ballot and then he like shoves it in, because there was a broken mailbox drawn in the background. I was like, oh, he should like shove it in the mailbox. And then he should like run with the mailbox and like throw it through the White House window, which was way too much. But then I was like, no, but I definitely want to do it. And so then we just threw that in there. And I think it made the video a lot better. And it was very last minute. So a lot of the gags will just come from me sitting there, having this sort of like ADHD moment of some ridiculous idea popping into my head and then going like, hey, I have to go with that. Like, that's really funny.
Yeah, I have the philosophy of Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, where he says that he can't turn creativity on like a faucet. He's got to be in the right mood, which is last minute panic.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I see you're a Calvinist. That's
Yeah,
Which is daily.
no, I did.
Two ways.
Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes is fantastic. That was such a good
Oh,
comment.
Masterpiece.
Yeah. And the fact that he bowed out before it got stale.
10
It's not-
years
it's not
and I'm
like-
out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Garfield where it's just like 40 years of this and it's like I get it. He likes lasagna. You know what I mean?
Mondays. Am I right?
Mondays. Oh my goodness. Today's
do.
Monday. This is what a horrible day. Gonna get a pie
I
in
do
the
wish,
face.
like, he would,
Look
like-
at me. Hold on. I am trashing Garfield and it is so much more successful than anything I've done. They're like,
yeah,
there are
Garfield,
motion pictures. I'm making YouTube cartoons and I'm like, dude, the guy that makes Garfield is an idiot. Like, no, he has something good going for him. I'm just saying I respect the artistic integrity of Bill Watterson. Watterson
Yeah.
or Watson?
Watterson.
Watterson.
Okay, I was right the first time.
Yeah, I wish he would embrace, like, because in his books he always complained about the format and the how restrictive the Sunday paper, the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
If he would just do like a graphic novel or just like a full book of full color, his art's so beautiful. I would love to see him do something like that.
I agree. I think he actually has the most beautiful cartoon artwork that
Yeah.
I've ever seen. And it's so masterful. And if he wanted, this is the perfect era for it. He could just release that stuff online. You know, you don't have to go through the traditional gatekeepers who are going to tell you what format it has to be in.
Yeah,
You
he
can just
can do
kind of
whatever
make
he
whatever
want.
you want.
Right, which is what turned him off the
billions.
whole industry. Is he didn't like that he had the deadline and like he wanted to go outside the frames and do all this crazy stuff, and he was stuck in here. And now he could.
And he refused. he refused to let them merchandise.
Yeah, no merchandising, no
Yeah.
movies,
Which is
no shows.
Yeah, which would have been an insane
The
amount of money for him. But
money.
he's like,
It's
yeah,
insane to think of.
good for him, I guess.
Yeah.
You know,
I can be
I
bought.
like when
just if
people
there's
ask
anybody
us-
listening.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. If you want to buy a Freedom Tunes t-shirt, we do sell them, so check those out. But no, I guess there is something to be said for like being in the position that he was in, where he is making a steady living, where he doesn't have to go out there and hustle and sell merch. So he's like, you know what, I'm not going to do it. It's just I like making the comics. That's going to be my thing. I think there's a beauty to that.
I was going to ask why you thought Christians or maybe Catholics, except Catholics are better at it. Why Christians tend to be so bad at art and entertainment, which we ask a lot of creatives. But what's interesting is that you're a guy who's doing stuff that wouldn't be considered Christian art, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I do some Christian art, but not on Freedom Tunes. Yeah.
Right. But what you're doing is, I mean, you're a Catholic guy who's creating art and you're creating something good that you're putting out into the world.
I appreciate that.
And it's not something that is the cheesy, like, Christian thing with an altar call at the end. So
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if that's a better way for us to engage with culture is putting out stuff that's good and not just, explicitly Christian, like a Christian movie or a Christian cartoon or whatever.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's perfectly fine and reasonable to have Christian movies and
Yeah,
Christian
sure.
cartoons. And yeah, I'm sure you would agree. But there's a lot of value to just creating something from a Christian moral framework that can entertain people. I mean, look, anytime you write something on your own, it's going to come from your perspective. So you don't have to worry about forcing it in there. It's like, figure out what story would be good for you to tell, what speaks to your values, what's interesting to you, what's funny, whatever you're trying to produce, just produce the best version of that for yourself. Make something that you would want to watch. And if you do that, you're not going to have to worry about putting really heavy-handed messages in there. And that's something I think I struggled with early on. the cartoons were so wordy. And that's decreased. And when we still do some wordy ones, because there are educational topics I like to cover that can't necessarily just be done with like silly visual gags.
And anything with Ben Shapiro is going to have like
Ben Shapiro is gonna have, like, a lot of words.
50,000 words.
Yeah, exactly. Or Jordan Peterson. But I have found that sometimes the best way to get a message, and not sometimes, in almost every case, the best way to get your message across is to just try to focus on making it entertaining. And your worldview is going to shine through that if you're really being honest to yourself and like making creative choices that you're picking, not because you think this will get you a lot of views or because you think that this will help sell a perspective, but just because you think it's good and like that's what you're going to make. I think that's what Christian filmmakers have to focus on. And also honing the craft too, because a lot of this stuff does look really, really amateurish. Like there's a lot of Christian stuff, and not intentionally amateurish, you know? Like I've mentioned, some of the stuff that we do, it has to be sloppy because we're doing one of these every single week. But man, you'll watch Christian, so things like timing and a sense of motion, like there are certain things that like you can't sacrifice if you want jokes to land, for example. And yeah, when it comes to like so much Christian comedy, you don't get that. And also when it comes to so much Christian film, it's like either the editing is slow or the shots are clunky, the lighting is weird, like it all looks low budget. And it's not just that the writing is bad, it's that they don't put the effort in. They don't put the effort into everything else that they should. And part of me fears that that's because they kind of know they don't have to. Because, there is a large market. There's a large market for Christian content, and they know that they can monopolize the space by making films which are subpar, but which parents will gravitate towards and say, like, I can show this to my kid and I don't have to worry about them seeing a sex scene in the middle of it or hearing language that I don't want them using. Whereas we know based on some classic Hollywood films before things became as explicit, you absolutely can tell a good, compelling, entertaining story without having to, cater to the lowest common denominator and throw nudity in and throw bad language in. But it's just not done anymore. And I think part of the reason it isn't done is because the people creating it not only don't see anything wrong with it, they actually think it's good. I think they actually think it's a moral good to promote sexual liberation, for example, or like any other number of values which we as Christians view as abhorrent. And the question is, how do we combat this? And I think to give the short answer is like, just make something good. As long as you're honest to yourself, your worldview will come through it, because they don't sit down right when they're writing a film and think like, how can I turn somebody's children into liberals by writing this? Like, I don't think that's what's in the back of their mind. I think there's some of that for some films. Like you can tell certain projects are really preachy, like The Newsroom. I'm not sure if you ever saw that. That's like, or West Wing. Like there are some textbook examples of really explicitly political shows where you can tell they're just trying to get their view across. But even then, like they still manage to make that entertaining.
Even West Wing has good characters.
Exactly. So even when they're being obnoxious and heavy-handed, they're still pretty entertaining. But most of the time, what they'll do is they'll just make a film and they'll have the characters behave in ways that they want you to perceive as normal. And if you see enough of those films, eventually you will.
Yeah. Well, now we're coming to the close of our interview here. Only this is subscribers get way more.
Yeah.
How would Ben Shapiro pitch subscribing to the Babylon Bee?
That's a tough call. I think he would tell people not to.
What?
I think Ben Shapiro.
Man, that backfired.
Yeah, I'm just being honest. I'm just telling you what Ben Shapiro would say. Like,
if we paid him enough money.
If you paid Ben Shapiro enough money.
Let's say we were an ad on the we sponsor, and he goes, but first.
Just think of what he says about Raycons and then just make it Babylon Bee.
So this is exactly why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to come to your house and give your child a sex change. But before I get into that, let me explain about this fantastic new publication called the Babylon Bee. Okay, they're absolutely hysterical. Everything they make is incredible. And if you go to the Babylon Bee and you actually pledge your money to them, they will give you special behind the scenes. I'm sorry, folks. I'm so flustered because of just how much I love this podcast. They will give you special behind the scenes features, gang. And it's like, yeah, actually, I should probably know what you guys want.
Just make it up.
Can we start again? Yeah,
you can make it up.
Make up all the features, like ponies and.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it as well. I will make stuff up.
All right, now.
I got it this time. Are you ready, boys?
Yeah, we're ready.
Got it.
Take 3.
Okay, so I'm going to explain why Alexandria Okay, so I'm going to explain why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to come to your house and give your children a sex change. But first, a word from our sponsor. If you actually want to get some of the best satirical news sources and fake news that you can trust, go to Babylon Bee. Okay, you subscribe to them. And if you subscribe, they will actually send you 10 ounces of gold complimentary. Gold is very important to have right now. And it's actually from Birch Gold specifically. I don't know if that's false advertising. I'm just making that up because I want to plug both of them at the same time. But I would definitely, and also if you're looking for a new mattress too, Babylon Bee will absolutely throw in a new mattress. And on top of that, they will give you life insurance for when Ocasio-Cortez comes to your house and murders you for posting something conservative on Facebook. Because that will literally happen. It happened like 30 times this week. It literally happened to Michael Knowles this morning.
Wow.
Is that good?
Yeah.
We're going to like double our subscriber base.
I always love him. He advertises the Raycons, and then like he has like the B-roll shots of him like looking all cool like with his Raycons. Like Ben Shapiro.
Well, he does look very cool.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's just an objective fact, folks. I'm a very cool guy. Okay, and the idea. Okay, folks.
What are some more I can do before, or maybe I'll do more impressions?
Yeah,
for
I'll
your
do more
audience
in the
Subscriber portion. We've got more impressions,
What?
and we're going to talk about some cool stuff. And
Yeah. Anytime
Yeah.
you upset any celebrities or any controversies you've been in, we want spicy stuff.
we're going to get the spicy.
This is literally when I tell people how I really feel, because everything I was just saying now for the public, that was a
It's gonna
show.
be the real stuff.
That was the mask on Seamus.
You will tell, like, you'll bare your soul, and then as Jordan Peterson, you will psychoanalyze yourself.
I actually do that sometimes.
In the mirror, in the bathroom?
We'll get into it, but the reason I do impressions is because I needed imaginary friends growing up because things were hard. But
We'll get into that.
We'll get into
talk about
that.
it.
You know, you guys will want to.
In the meantime, check out FreedomToons on YouTube. Anything else you're promoting?
Yeah, check out FreedomToons. And please subscribe, donate to us on Patreon as well. Now we got 2 people here competing for your money.
Yeah.
But I think the content we're creating is pretty great. YouTube is sort of fickle. Sometimes we do well with ads. Sometimes we don't do well with ads. So if you guys want to support the show, that'd be fantastic. You get access to certain perks and rewards and some behind the scenes stuff. And I'm also creating an animated web series with the Foundation for Economic Education called Common Sense Soapbox. And we've been producing that for about 3 years, but we just launched a new YouTube channel specifically for it. So if you want to check that out, please do.
All right.
Subscriber portion. Throwing all the freeloaders out of the helicopter. See you later.
Goodbye.
Coming up next for Babylon Bee subscribers.
And then I made another video of Ben Shapiro farting. So it was a win for free speech. It was, we really won this time around. Because if you want liberal political commentary, you just turn on the television. You can get that anywhere in the mainstream media. So people go to YouTube because they want to hear outsider perspectives on things. Oh, so I searched straight white married couple, and the suggested term was Nazi. Yeah, honestly, I deleted Snapchat. It's so horrible. I feel like nothing good is going to come from that.
You're a big TikTok fan, bro.
I'm a huge TikTok fan. Yeah. They call me TikTok Coughlin, man. I'm all up.
Enjoying this hard-hitting interview? Become a Babylon Bee subscriber to hear the rest of this conversation. Go to babylonbee.com/plans for full-length, ad-free podcasts. Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave D'Andrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee.